What's up, Corbin Blanton here, and I'm going to show you my settings for shooting video with the GoPro Hero I camera. So here's the GoPro Hero I camera. So when you turn it on, like so, you get the old touch screen on the back here. Once it loads up, you can go down here at the bottom and you can change your resolution. So now when you get into the settings here, there's a little pencil and you click on that. And here's all of your settings for each preset that you have, or resolution. So up here at the top, this is where you can change your resolution. There are two modes that I mainly use. I mainly go for 5K at 30 frames per second when I'm not shooting slow motion. That gives you that cinematic feel and it's got the highest resolution. And then when it comes to slow motion, I shoot at 4K at 60 frames per second, and sometimes I'll shoot at 2.7K at 120 frames per second, depending on if I want super slow motion or just standard slow motion. But yeah, those are my go-to resolutions. Top middle is where you can change your lens, so you can either have like your super wide lens, your narrow, linear, or just standard wide lens. Up here in the top right is Hypersmooth. I usually always keep it on high or boost. I guess if you're shooting like an interview or something, then you can turn it off because it does crop your footage the higher the setting is. But you know, for the most part, at least with what I'm shooting, I usually just keep it on boost or high. And then that's pretty much it up here. So what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about the ProTune settings here. These are the settings that I'm talking about when I say that I'm going to show you my settings for when I'm using the GoPro Hero I. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to change the bit rate to high. Basically, the bit rate being at high just gives you better quality as far as the video itself goes. I usually keep the shutter at auto, and then for EV compensation, I usually put that at -1 or -0.5, just so you don't blow out any highlights. For the white balance, I usually lock it. I don't keep it on auto. I lock it at 5,500 Kelvin, just because if you lock your white balance and you're moving the camera around a lot, it won't change the colors on your camera, because if it's on auto, sometimes it'll just pick up something weird and it'll change the color while you're moving the camera, and it's just not ideal for shooting a video. All right, so you got ISO min and ISO max. My go-to is always keeping the ISO minimum at 100, and then the max I usually keep around 400, or I'll even drop it down to 100. That just depends on how much light I have to work with outside. I usually always use GoPros when there's a lot of light. They don't really work the best in low light conditions. They can, it just requires a lot of post work. If I do need more light in my shot, I'll usually change the ISO max to maybe 800 or 1600 at most, but that'll be it. But otherwise I just keep the max at 400. For sharpness, I keep it at low because I like to add sharpness in post. If you don't do a lot of post work with GoPros, then you can just keep that at medium. I think high is too much. It's really up to you. You have to play around with it and see how it looks to you, but I think that high is too much. So medium if you don't want to add any sharpness. I keep it at low. For the color, so you have two options. You have GoPro or you have flat. If you don't plan on color grading your footage in post, I would keep it at GoPro. Keeping the color profile flat will give you a better image quality in the end if you know how to color grade it properly, but if you don't, you can ruin your footage. I keep my color profile flat just because I know how to color grade it, and I've been doing it for a while, so I just know how to do it that way. But if you're not sure, then use GoPro color. As far as the raw audio goes, which would be the next setting, I just keep that at high. And then for the wind, I keep it at auto. Some people turn this off and they add like their little like beard right here to reduce the wind. And here at the bottom, you got your shortcuts, which are basically your on-screen controls if you have to change something quickly, like your ISO max, your white balance, your sharpness, anything that you want to set up there. You can create a button on your screen to change it quickly rather than going into the menu. So those are the settings that I use mainly across all of my GoPro cameras. Nothing really changes that much. I might adjust a couple things here and there, but those are my go-to settings when I'm shooting literally anything, especially when there's a lot of light outside. I rarely use them indoors. I usually only use them outside when the light is good. Another option that I've been using a lot lately, which I think is really cool, is the max lens mod for the GoPro Hero I. It gives you that wider angle, and it's got horizon lock, which I think is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen on a camera. I've actually just recently shot some videos of wakeboarding with it, and it's a really awesome feature. To break it down, if you haven't seen it, basically you're shooting video and then you can flip the camera like this, but when you're recording or when you're watching the video never moves, even though the camera is. I can show you an example right now. All right, so that wraps it up. These are my settings that I use for the GoPro Hero I right here. Take a screenshot. If you found this video helpful, give me a like, give me a comment, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.